there's always been a question of what can the private sector do to also then support tertiary institutions. And all along the private sector has always used that 1% FNU levy to support the tertiary education providers to fine-tune those that are coming into the labor market. And unfortunately, at the moment, we're not able to do that because about 50% of that goes to the medical scheme of government, 40% goes to ACCF for accidents on the road and workplaces, and we only have 10% to work with.
For people to understand, who may not understand the levy.
Right.
So the employers pay the levy. Just explain that for our viewers, please.
Correct. So employers pay a levy. It's called FNU levy. Previously, it was called NTPC, TPF levy, and NTC levy, when National Training Council was there. And you pay 1% of your total wage bill. Now, from 2019 to 2024, about 4,800 employers paid the levy, and that amounted to an average of about $25 million a year. And this is what the employers can use to skill and upskill and
so the levy, the idea of the levy is for upskilling.
Correct. The upskilling. And in 2019, there was a decision made by government to then use it for other purposes. One purpose was 50% of that, about 15 million, goes to for free doctors, what the government calls a private-public partnership, and about 40% of that, about $12 million, goes to the ACCF for...
Not the private sector.
Not the private sector. And 10% of that 1% remains with NTPC, and after NTPC takes out its cost of running the scheme, then employers are able to access that. And if you just take on average, if you divide that 1% comes to about the 10% of the 1% comes to about 2.5 million a year. And if you divide that by the number of contributing employers, that's $520 per employer per year. That is definitely not sufficient to support skilling and reskilling and support the education institutions that Dr. Eddie looks after, so that private sector can play a role.
I call it as it is. It's bad budgeting. Bad budgeting. We're going into a crisis of skills gap and other issues, and here we have money is being paid by the employers to make sure there's upskilling, but then it's meant for other means. In 2019, that decision made, definitely that decision needs to be relooked at. Have you asked for that decision to be?
We have asked many times. I think the last time, the last budget consultations we did, so the recent one we did, the last budget consultation, the Professor Biman Prasad, when he was Minister of Finance, he did, and he did undertake the responsibility of doing an inquiry in this with a view to addressing the issue.